Hello and namaste to all of you. In our video 6, we have covered our UPSC GS series under Sustainable Development Issues and Challenges, Unit 5 Natural Resources Exploitation. Introduction, Historical Perspective, and Stages of Development. And in this audio number 7, we will discuss under the natural resources exploitation. Number 3, sector wise parameters of sustainable development, that is agriculture, industry and service. Point 4, defense and armament. Point 5, quest for comfort, that is lifestyle and consumerism, energy, and at the last, summary. Now we will begin with the point 3 of natural resource exploitation under sustainable development issues and challenges. Point 3, sector wise parameters of sustainable development. The parameters of sustainable development that measure sustainability or sustainable development performance are known as indicators. The indicators include environmental, economic and social factors. These indicators signal: number 1, the presence that society puts on the environment in the form of pollution and resource depletion. Number 2, the resulting state of the environment, especially the incurred changes compared to desirable sustainable states. Number 3, the response by human activity, mainly in the form of political and societal decision, measures and policies. Table 5.1, Sustainable Development Indicator Framework. Theme: equity. Sub-theme: poverty. Indicator: percent of population living below poverty line. Gini index of income inequality. Unemployment rate. Theme: health. Sub-theme: gender equality, nutritional status, mortality. Indicator: ratio of average female wage to male wage, nutritional status of children, mortality rate under 5 years old, life expectancy at birth. Sanitation, drinking water, healthcare delivery. Life expectancy at birth is the indicator. Percent of population with adequate sewage disposal facilities. Population with access to safe drinking water. Percent of population with access to primary health care families. Immunization against infectious childhood disease. Contraceptive prevalence rate. Education. Theme is education. Sub-theme is education level. Indicator is children reaching grade 5 of primary education, adult secondary education achievement level, housing security, population, literacy, living conditions, crime, population change. Indicator: adult literacy rate, floor area per person, number of recorded crimes per 100,000 population, population growth rate, population of urban formal and informal settlements. Theme: atmosphere. Sub-theme: climate change, ozone layer depletion, air quality. Indicator: emissions of greenhouse gases, consumption of ozone depleting substances, ambient concentration of air pollutants in urban areas. Theme land. Sub-theme agriculture, forests, desertification, urbanization. Indicator arable and permanent cropland area, use of fertilizers, use of agricultural pesticides, forest area as a percent of land area, wood harvesting intensity, land affected by desertification, area of urban formal and informal settlements, theme oceans, seas and coasts, sub-theme coastal zone, fisheries, indicator algae concentration in coastal waters, percent of total population living in coastal areas, fresh water, water, fresh water is the theme, sub-theme is water quality, water quantity, indicator is annual catch by major species, annual withdrawal of ground and surface water as a percent of total available water, BOD in water bodies, bacteria found in intestines and feces of humans and animals and in water. BOD in water bodies. BOD means biochemical oxygen demand. Theme is biodiversity. Sub-theme is ecosystem species. Indicator is area of selected key ecosystems. Concentration of fecal coliform in fresh water. Fecal coliform in fresh water. Area of selected key ecosystems. Protected area of a percent of total area. Abundance of selected key species. Economic. Theme is first was social, then environmental, now economic. Economic. Theme is economic structure. Sub-theme is economic performance, trade, financial status. Indicator GDP per capita. Investment share in GDP. Balance of trade in goods and services. Debt to GNP ratio. Total ODA given or received as a percent of GNP. Theme is consumption and production patterns. Sub-theme is material consumption, energy use, waste generation and management, transportation. Indicator is intensity of material use, annual energy consumption per capita, share of consumption of renewable energy resources, intensity of energy use, generation of industrial and municipal solid waste, generation of hazardous waste, management of radioactive waste, waste recycling and reuse, distance traveled per capita by mode of transport, institutional theme, institutional framework, institutional capacity, sub-theme is strategic implementation of SD international cooperation, information access, communication infrastructure, science and technology, disaster preparedness and response, indicator, National Sustainable Development Strategy, implementation of ratified global agreements, number of internet subscribers per 1000 inhabitants, main telephone lines per 1000 inhabitants, expenditure on research and development as a percent of GDP, economic and human loss due to natural disasters. The indicators of sustainability cover stewardship of both natural and human resources. Stewardship of human resources includes consideration of social responsibilities such as working and living conditions of laborers, the needs for rural communities, and consumer health and safety both in the present and the future. Stewardship of natural resources covers maintaining or enhancing land and other vital natural resource base for the long term. 3.1 Agriculture. Agricultural practices changed dramatically and went through a major transition as traditional farming methods were largely replaced by modern high intensity agriculture with new technologies. Mechanization, increased chemical use, specialization, and government policies that favored maximizing production. Advances in crop breeding and new technologies made this possible. This highly mechanized approach to agriculture dramatically increased crop productivity, especially by the introduction of high-yielding varieties of grains, typically accompanied with the use of mechanized equipment. Fossil fuel energy, synthetic fertilizers, and pesticides and irrigation. The agriculture practices changed. For example, the high-yielding hybrids first developed in Mexico in the 1940s, characterized as extended planting season and quicker maturation. The Green Revolution is a prime case of such a change, often hailed as a miracle for its immediate and remarkable results in increasing crop yields. It spread to Asia, Africa, South America, and elsewhere in the 1960s and 70s, and several countries achieved record harvests of wheat, maize, and rice, and many doubled food production in a period of 30 to 40 years. World food production increased faster than the population from the 1950s through the mid-80s, when it leveled off and per capita production began to fall. In general, these increases in world food production came not from an increase in the area under cultivation, but from higher yields on existing cropland. The methods of the Green Revolution often replaced low impact traditional crop varieties and farming systems that had developed over hundreds of years in consonance with regional soils and climate without absorbing the accumulated indigenous knowledge. Although these changes have had many positive effects and reduced many risks in farming, there have also been significant losses. Prominent among these are topsoil depletion, groundwater contamination, the decline of family farms, continued neglect of the living and working conditions of farm laborers, increasing costs of production, and the disintegration of economic and social conditions in rural communities. Although many assume Although many assume that the environmental effects of agriculture are small compared to the effects of industry, agriculture is now the primary unregulated source of water pollution in the United States (US) and the main source of soil degradation in the world. This modern agriculture causes soil erosion and loss of soil fertility, pollution and eutrophication of freshwater and coastal marine ecosystems, depletion and contamination of groundwater, habitat destruction, intensive energy consumption, release of greenhouse gases, the impacts from production and use of fertilizers and pesticides. Agricultural practices can disrupt natural ecosystems and their processes to the point of altering their ability to provide critical ecosystem services that are necessary not just for agriculture but to sustain life on this planet. For example, soil provides such critical ecosystem functions as a regulation of air and water quality and the attenuation of wastes essential to any terrestrial ecosystem. A system's perspective is essential to the understand agriculture's sustainability. The system is envisioned in its broadest sense, from the individual farm to the local ecosystem and to communities affected by the farming system both locally and globally. An emphasis on the system allows a larger and more thorough view of the consequences of farming practices on both human communities and the environment. A systems approach gives us the tools to explore the interconnections between farming and other aspects of our environment. A systems approach also implies interdisciplinary efforts in research and education. This requires not only the input to researchers from various disciplines, but also farmers, farm workers, consumers, policymakers, and others. Making the transition to sustainable agriculture is a process. For farmers, the transition to sustainable agriculture normally requires a series of small, realistic steps. Family economics and personal goals influence how fast or how far participants can go in the transition. It is important to realize that each small decision can make a difference and contribute to advancing the entire system further on the sustainable agriculture continuum. The key to moving forward is to will to take the next step. Finally, it is important to point out that reaching forward the goal of sustainable agriculture is the responsibility of all participants in the system, including farmers, laborers, policymakers, researchers, retailers, and consumers. Each group has its own part to play, its own unique contribution to make to strengthen a sustainable agriculture community. Number A. Plant production practices. Sustainable production practices involve a variety of approaches. Specific, specific strategies must take into account topography, soil characteristics, climate, pests, local availability of inputs, and the individual grower's goals. Despite the site-specific and individual nature of sustainable agriculture, several general principles can be applied to help growers select appropriate management practices. Number A. Selection of site, species, and variety. Number 1. Factors such as soil type and depth, previous crop history and location, e.g. climate, topography, should be taken into account before planting. Number 2. When possible, pest resistant crops should be selected which are tolerant of existing soil or site conditions. Number 3. Preventive strategies adopted early can reduce inputs and help establish a sustainable production system. Number B. Diversity. Diversified farms are usually more economically and ecologically resilient, while monoculture farming has advantages in terms of efficiency and ease of management. The loss of the crop in any one year could put a farm out of business and or seriously disrupt the stability of a community. dependent on that crop. By growing a variety of crops, farmers reduce economic risk and are less susceptible to the radical price fluctuations associated with changes in supply and demand. Properly managed diversity can also buffer a farm in a biological sense. For example, in annual cropping systems, crop rotation can be used to suppress weeds, pathogens, and insect pests. Also, cover crops can have stabilizing effects on the agroecosystem by holding soil and nutrients in place, conserving soil moisture with mold or standing dead mulches, and by increasing the water infiltration rate and soil water holding capacity. Cover crops in orchards and vineyards can buffer the system against pest in, in, infestations, pest infestations by increasing beneficial insect populations and can therefore reduce the need for chemical inputs. Optimum diversity may be obtained by integrating both crops and livestock in the same farming operation. This was the common practice for centuries until the mid 1900s when technology, government policy, and economics compelled farms to become more specialized. Mixed crop and livestock operations have several advantages. First, growing row crops only on more level land and pasture or forages on steeper slopes reduce soil erosion. Second, pasture and forage crops in rotation enhance soil quality and reduce erosion. Livestock manure in turn contributes to soil fertility. Third, livestock can buffer the negative impacts of low rainfall periods by consuming crop residue that in plant only systems would have been considered crop failures. Number C. Soil management. Crop management systems that use greater inputs of water, nutrients, pesticides, and or energy for tillage to maintain yields often impair soil quality. In sustainable systems, the soil is viewed as as fragile and living medium that must be protected and nurtured to ensure its long-term productivity and stability. Methods to protect and enhance the productivity of the soil include using cover crops, compost and or manures, reducing tillage, avoiding traffic on wet soils and maintaining soil cover with plants and or mulches. Regular additions of organic matter or the use of cover crops can increase soil aggregate stability, soil tilth and diversity of soil microbial life. Number D. Efficient use of inputs. Many inputs like pesticides, fertilizers, herbicides, etc. are used in sustainable agriculture. Sustainable farmers, however, maximize reliance on natural, renewable, and on farm inputs. Equally important are the environmental, social, and economic impacts of a particular strategy. Converting to sustainable practices does not mean simple input substitution. Frequently, it substitutes enhanced management and scientific knowledge for conventional inputs, especially chemical inputs that harm the environment on farms and in rural communities. The goal is to develop efficient biological systems which do not need high levels of material inputs. Growers frequently ask if synthetic chemicals are appropriate in a sustainable farming system. Sustainable approaches are those that are the least toxic and least energy intensive and yet maintain productivity and profitability. Preventive strategies and other alternatives should be employed before using chemical inputs from any source. However, there may be situations where the use of synthetic chemicals would be more sustainable than a strictly non-chemical approach. Number E. Consideration of social cultural assets and lifestyle choices. Management decisions should reflect not only environmental and economic considerations but also cultural and lifestyle choices. For example, adoption of some technologies or practices disturb the work choices of women or the cultural life of a village traditionally connected with agriculture. Overemphasis on minority returns from agriculture may adversely impact on lifestyle. Therefore, management decisions that promote sustainability, nourish the environment, enrich the community, and the individual socially and culturally are required. Number B, capital B, animal production practices. The integrated crop and livestock operations are highly complementary both biologically and economically. The integration presently usually takes place not at the farm level, at a higher level, but at business trade levels through intermediaries, through intermediaries, through intermediaries. This is the result of trend towards separation and specialization of crop and animal production systems. It is, however, encouraging to note that despite this trend, there are still many farmers who integrate crop and animal systems. Some of the specific points that livestock producers need to address are listed below. Number small a. Animal selection. The animal enterprise must be appropriate for the farm or ranch resources, farm capabilities and constraints such as feed and forage sources, landscape and climate must be considered in selecting which animals to produce. For example, ruminant animals can be raised on a variety of feed sources including range and pasture, cultivated forage, cover crops, shrubs, weeds and crop residues. There is a wide range of breeds available in each of the major ruminant species, that is cattle, sheep and goats. Hardier breeds that in general have lower growth and milk production potential are better adapted to less favorable environments with sparse or highly seasonal forage growth. Number small b. Animal nutrition. Feed costs are, are the largest single variable cost in any livestock operation. Feed costs can be kept to a minimum by monitoring animal condition and performance and understanding seasonal variations in feed and forage quality on the farm. Number C. Breeding. Use of quality germplasm to improve herd performance is another key to sustainability. In combination with good genetic stock, adapting the breeding season to fit the climate and sources of feed and forage reduce health problems and feed costs. Number D. Health, herd health. Animal health greatly influences breeding success and weight gains, two key aspects of successful livestock production. Unhealthy stock waste, feed, and require additional labor. A herd health program is critical to sustainable livestock production. Number F. Grazing management. Most adverse environmental impacts associated with grazing can be prevented or mitigated with proper grazing management. The number of stock per unit area stocking rate must be correct for the landscape and the forage sources. Sufficient control should be exercised to reduce overuse in some areas while other areas go unused. Prolonged concentration of stock that results in permanent loss of vegetative cover on uplands or in riparian zones should be avoided. However, small scale loss of vegetative cover around water or feed troughs may be tolerated if surrounding vegetative cover is adequate. Number G. Confined livestock production. Animal health and waste management are key issues in confined livestock operations. The moral and ethical debate taking place today regarding animal welfare is particularly intense for confined livestock production systems. The issues raised in this debate need to be addressed. Confined livestock production is increasingly a source of surface and groundwater pollutants, particularly where there are large numbers of animals per unit area. Expensive waste management facilities are now a necessary cost of confined production systems. Waste is a problem of almost all operations and must be managed with respect to both the environment and the quality of life in nearby communities. Livestock production systems that disperse stock in pastures so the wastes are not concentrated and do not overwhelm natural nutrient cycling processes have become a subject of renewed interest. Number C. Water. Water is the principal resource that has helped agriculture and society to prosper, and it has been a major limiting factor when mismanaged. An extensive water storage and transfer system allows crop production to expand to very arid regions. In drought years, limited surface water supplies have prompted overdraft of groundwater water and consequent intrusion of salt water or permanent collapse of aquifers. Several steps should be taken to develop drought-resistant farming systems even in normal years, including both policy and management actions. Number one, improving water conservation and storage measures. Number two, providing incentives for selection of drought tolerant crop species. Number three, using reduced volume irrigation systems. Number four, managing crops to reduce water loss. Or number five, not planting at all. The most important issues related to water quality involve salinization and contamination of ground and surface waters by pesticides, nitrates, and selenium. Salinity has become a problem wherever water of even relatively low salt content is used. On shallow soils in arid regions and or where the water table is near the root zone of crops, tile drainage can remove the water and salts, but the disposal of the salts and other contaminants may negatively affect the environment depending upon where they are deposited. Temporary solutions include the use of salt tolerant crops, low volume irrigation, and various management techniques to minimize the effects of salts on crops. In the long term, some farmland may need to be removed from production or converted to other uses. Other uses include conversion of raw crop land to production of drought tolerant forages and restoration of wildlife habitat or the use of agroforestry to minimize the impacts of salinity and high water tables. Another way in which agriculture affects water resources is through the destruction of riparian habitats within watersheds. The conversion of wild habitat to agricultural land reduces fish and wildlife through erosion and sedimentation. The effects of pesticides, removal of riparian plants, and the diversion of water. The plant diversity in and around both riparian and agricultural areas should be maintained in order to support to a diversity of wildlife. This diversity will enhance natural ecosystems and could aid in agricultural pest management. Number D. The economic, social, and political context. Sustainable agriculture requires a commitment to changing public policies, economic institutions, and social values as the food system extends far beyond the farm. It involves the interaction of individuals and institutions with contrasting and often competing goals, including farmers, researchers, input suppliers, farm workers, unions, farm advisors, processors, retailers, consumers, and policymakers. Therefore, strategies and approaches covering a variety of domains are necessary to create a more sustainable food system. The strategies will range from concentrated efforts to alter specific policies or practices to the longer term tasks of reforming key institutions and rethinking of economic priorities. Areas of concern where change is most needed include the following. Number E. Food and agriculture policy. New policies at national, state, and local government level are needed to simultaneously promote environmental health, economic profitability, and social and economic equity. For example, commodity and price support programs could be restructured to allow farmers to realize the full benefits of the productivity gains made possible through alternative practices. Tax and credit policies could be modified to encourage a diverse and decentralized system of family farms rather than corporate concentration and absentee ownership. Research policies could be modified to emphasize the development of sustainable alternatives. Marketing orders and cosmetic standards could be amended to encourage reduced pesticide use. Coalitions must be created to address these policy concerns at the local, regional, and national level. Number F. Land use. Conversion of agricultural land to urban uses is a particular concern as rapid urbanization and escalating land values threaten, threaten farming on prime soils. Existing farmland conversion patterns often discourage farmers from adopting sustainable practices and a long-term perspective on the value of land. Comprehensive new policies to protect prime soils and regulate development are needed. Sustainable agriculture research and education can play a key role in building public support for agricultural land preservation. Educating land use planners and decision makers about sustainable agriculture is an important priority. Number G. Labor. In general, the conditions of agricultural labor are generally far below accepted social standards and legal protections. In other forms of employment, policies and programs are needed to address this problem, working towards socially just and safe employment that provides adequate wages, working conditions, health benefits, and chances for economic stability. The needs for migrant labor for year-round employment and adequate housing are, are a particularly crucial problem needing immediate attention. To be more sustainable over the long term, labor must be acknowledged and supported by government policies recognized as important constituents and carefully considered when assessing the impacts of new technologies and practices. Number H. Rural community development. Sustainable agriculture presents an opportunity to rethink the importance of family farms and rural communities. Economic development policies are needed that encourage more diversified agricultural production on family farms as a foundation for healthy economies in rural communities. In combination with other strategies, sustainable agriculture practices and policies can help foster community institutions that meet employment, educational, health, and cultural needs. Number I. Consumers and the food system. Consumers can play a critical role in creating a sustainable food system. Through their purchases, they send strong messages to producers, retailers, and others in the system about what they think is important. Food cost and nutritional quality have always influenced consumer choices. The challenge now is to find strategies that broaden consumer perspectives so that environmental quality, resource use, and social equity issues are also considered in shopping decisions. At the same time, new policies and institutions must be created to enable producers using sustainable practices to market their goods to a wider public. Coalitions organized around improving the food system are one specific method of creating a dialogue among consumers, retailers, producers, and others. These coalitions or other public forums can be important vehicles for clarifying issues, suggesting new policies, increasing mutual trust, and encouraging a long term view of food production, distribution, and consumption. Number J. Sustainable agriculture indicators. Agricultural indicators are one of the first major steps taken to establish criteria for sustainable agriculture. Within each broad indicator, specific measurable parameters are defined. Table 5.1 gives the 10 indicators and their parameters. The table 5.1, the indicators and parameters of sustainable agriculture. We will discuss this topic in our next audio lecture 8.